From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
I don't think United States and Israel had any other choice.
A ceasefire deal reached, but will it hold? The ripples felt across the globe after the deal between Israel and Iran, and how Montanans feel.
If we lost those public lands, it would just be devastating.
Concerns over public lands rising. A look at what the Big Beautiful Bill could mean for our horizons.
We can make sure that trash cans are functioning properly, that they're closed properly.
Plus, staying bear aware from the palms of our hands. Red Lodge's unique way of tracking bears one garbage can at a time. Those stories and much more coming up in the next hour. Good morning and welcome back to Montana This Morning on this Tuesday, June 24th. I'm Charlie Klepps here with Miller Robson. Good morning, Miller.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. Well, you made it through Monday. We call it the hardest day of the week. Rest of the week
really is
going to be gravy. All right, we're getting warmer out there. Now, yesterday, it was a little warmer than it was on Sunday, but still below average. A good 9 degrees below the norm. Our low of 41, about 13 degrees below average. In fact, that 41 was a record low at the airport here in Billings. More on that just a second. Yesterday, top gust near 20 miles an hour. Still going to be breezy today. We could have gust over 20 miles an hour easily. Dry day yesterday. For the month, we're still in the hole, still pacing ahead for the year. Remember, we're less than 3 inches away now from hitting our annual total of precipitation total, so we're in pretty good shape out there. Mentioned record lows yesterday. Billings, Miles City, and Sheridan all saw record low temperatures, but it is warmer as we wake up this morning. Still a little chilly there on the western side of the Q2 viewing area, where White Sulphur Springs, our colder spot, down near the freezing mark. The rest of us, though, in the 40s and even some 50s over across the eastern plains. A beautiful start here in Billings, but then those clouds will start to build up as we go along this morning. Maybe by lunchtime, full-on cloudiness. That gives us a slight chance of rain later this evening for us. 49 right now, humidity at 83%, winds out of the southwest at about 6 miles an hour. So sunny to start, clouds coming in. Our high today of 78, still a little bit below average. Then we get warmer, maybe some 90s on Thursday, and we'll talk about that with the main forecast coming up in just a bit.
Awesome. Thanks, Miller.
You got it, Charlie.
We're following breaking overnight news from the Middle East. This morning, President Donald Trump issued a warning to Israel on social media, saying, quote, "Do not drop those bombs. Bring your pilots home now." Those comments after just hours of Israel threatened more strikes against Iran, accusing them of violating a ceasefire deal that the president had just announced last night. Iran denies the violation. Israel is now accusing Iran of violating it, which they are denying. President Trump signals he's now unclear if the ceasefire is intact while on his way to meet with NATO leaders in the Netherlands. This comes after a series of events, including Operation Midnight Hammer, where U.S. Air Force B-2 Spirits followed through with strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. Israeli officials say Iran launched another wave of missiles this morning, causing multiple deaths and injuries in one suburban neighborhood. Iran indicated that the launch may have happened ahead of the ceasefire and that it would pause strikes afterwards. But it's not before tensions boiled over, with Iran launching retaliatory attacks on a U.S. base in Qatar. The situation is drawing a debate from both sides, including right here in Montana. This was the situation this morning as Iran targeted short and medium-range missiles at the largest U.S. military base in the Middle East. These attacks coming after the United States struck 3 key Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. And this morning, our David J. hears from one University of Montana professor who understands this battle from both sides, living in Iran up until college.
U.S. forces destroyed 3 Iranian nuclear sites on Saturday.
That's impressive.
Immediately catching the attention of several Montanans with ties to the region. Among them, Montana State Senator Ken Bogner. The Republican served in the U.S. Marine Corps for 4 years and was deployed to the Iraq-Syria border in 2006 when Iran supplied weapons to Iraq.
I've seen firsthand them wanting to smuggle weapons into foreign adversaries to kill Americans. So they deserve this, yes.
Even so, Bogner does not agree with the U.S. decision to attack Iranian nuclear sites.
Retaliation, escalation, and when we have troops stationed abroad, it puts them at risk. It puts our assets at risk.
Mehrdad Kia also has a unique perspective. Kia grew up in Iran. He's now the director of the Central and Southwest Asian Studies Center at the University of Montana. Despite his Iranian upbringing, he supports the U.S. attacks on Iran's nuclear sites.
I don't think United States and Israel had any other choice.
And Kia, a U.S. citizen since 1986, predicted as early as last fall that Israel would launch an attack on Iran.
The majority of Iranians don't even see the logic of having nuclear energy, let alone nuclear bomb. This kind of confrontation becomes a necessity because one side is refusing to negotiate.
President Trump on Monday stated that Israel and Iran had agreed to a complete and total ceasefire. This just hours after Iran fired missiles at the U.S. base in Qatar. An attack Kia describes as symbolic. Iran alerted the U.S. the attack was coming hours before it happened.
I think they are on a defensive. They are teetering on the verge of collapse.
They felt like they needed to do something, but they don't want this to escalate with U.S. involvement. I think that's a good sign.
Good signs as many hope for peace. In Billings, David J., MTN News.
In the wake of the Iranian attack on a U.S. airbase, Malmstrom Air Force Base issued the following statement. The airmen of Malmstrom Air Force Base and the 341st Missile Wing are performing our nuclear deterrence mission as we have done for the past 62 years. We'll continue operating the Minuteman III safely and effectively, remaining steadfast and unwavering in our mission. At the end of the hour, we'll check in live with Scripps News Group's Joe St. George on the ongoing developments from Washington. Our other top story this morning, the potential sale of millions of acres of public lands. Wilderness groups say roughly 3 million of the 250 million acres could be sold if the Senate budget bill is passed. By now, you've probably seen this map, everything in green, Forest Service land, the brown BLM lands. Wilderness groups say that roughly 3 million of the 250 million acres seen here could be sold if the Senate bill ends up passing. None of those green or brown dots are in Montana, as you can see. The 765-acre stretch of BLM land that makes up Fort Dance's recreation area sits just across the Yellowstone River from Billings, a rare gem that makes living here so special. Trails like this, having them just minutes from town. But it's the threat to places like this that has so many sounding the alarm. As of Monday, more than 100 nonprofits signed a letter urging the Western Governors Association to reject a controversial plan that could sell off up to 3 million acres of public land. The plan is buried inside the president's latest budget reconciliation bill, a package he's called the Big Beautiful Bill. If passed, it would let governors in western states hand-pick parcels for the Interior and Agriculture secretaries to privatize for development. Republicans backing the idea say it could fund affordable housing and chip away at the national debt. But here's the catch. Montana is the only western state currently exempt. Senator Steve Daines secured that exemption after major pushback. Still, many say this sets a dangerous precedent, one that could impact public land access for generations to come. Montana Senator Steve Daines has worked closely with Mike Lee of Utah on the public land provision and was able to get Montana exempt from the legislation, like we said. Daines initially said he was working with Senator Lee to, quote, minimize the sale of public lands. He then said he was opposed to selling public lands, but he declined repeated interview requests from MTN to discuss whether he will endorse the bill if it includes the sale of lands in other western states. Senator Tim Sheehy and Congressman Ryan Zinke have both publicly said they are opposed to selling off public lands. And Republican freshman Senator Troy Downing sat down with us to share his perspective on the matter.
Zinke's made it really clear that's a red line, and Zinke and I are both on a bipartisan congressional caucus protecting public lands, and both of us signed an amendment to make sure that that came off of the House version. So what I keep saying about this reconciliation bill, and my advice, my communication with the Senate, is don't allow perfect to be the enemy of good.
So while Montana residents are closely watching to see how our state's congressional delegation votes on the Big Beautiful Bill, many in Wyoming are even more concerned. Public lands across the western Unites could soon be up for sale, like we've said. If that bill ends up passing, a revision would end up allowing Wyoming lands to be on the auction. We traveled to Cody, gauging local reaction and hearing from Congresswoman Harriet Hageman, who has already heard plenty from her constituents. The great outdoors.
This is my land, and it's your land.
Wide open spaces that Americans have enjoyed for years.
All of us share it.
Whether it be used for science.
I've done about 17 years worth of research here on golden eagle ecology.
Or recreationally.
Sometimes I'll have a target in mind. Other times I'll just wing it and see what I see.
Kat Hesselbacher has turned her passion for public lands into a career. capturing these images and using them to help fill photo galleries like this one in downtown Cody.
This was up on Forest Service land, and it's got a double rainbow.
But public lands like this are currently under threat. Wilderness advocates worry that land and expanses that many enjoy could soon be sold by the federal government if the president's big, beautiful bill passes through Congress.
If that's gone, it's gone forever.
It's important. And so we get pretty concerned when we hear about people maybe just taking it right out from under us.
But Representative Harriet Hageman of Wyoming says a large-scale sell-off of our public lands is far from the reality of what is going to happen.
It identifies 11 states. It only applies to 0.5 to 0.75%.
She says the Big Beautiful Bill itself is very limited in scope, allowing for certain BLM and National Forest lands that would make sense for affordable housing, much of it near large communities. She also says all states will have a lot to say about which lands are sold.
I actually think it's a very good bill. It's why I have come out as strongly as I have in support of it.
But Hageman's support has been met with criticism. A packed crowd bombarded the Congresswoman with questions at a recent town hall meeting in Cody, and groups like the Wyoming Wilderness Society have urged their members to voice their opposition to Wyoming's delegation. Hageman says fears over the bill have been exaggerated, and says this map showing lands that could be sold isn't accurate, arguing just a fraction of these federal lands will be considered.
Well, that's not what this bill does, because the bill specifically gives a percentage.
But Wyoming residents worry. Even a fraction is too much, opening the door to a problem that could grow even larger for years to come.
That would make me very angry. You know, it's just, we need our public lands. The whole world needs our public lands.
New on Montana this morning, the city of Billings announced its new fire chief last night, effective immediately. Matt Hoppel will take the reins of the Billings Fire Department. Hoppel served more than 27 years on the department, holding nearly every operational and administrative role in that time. The Billings city administrator says Hoppel dedicated his entire career to serving the citizens of Billings, and we look forward to the continued impact of his leadership. As we told you in April, Hoppel was the executive fire chief, then took over as interim chief after Chief Pepper Valdez accepted a new position as fire chief of Mountain View Fire Rescue in Colorado. And this morning, we're looking at an inside look at a rescue by the fire department and local law enforcement agencies. Late last week, a man was found injured and stranded on a gravel island in the Yellowstone River directly beneath the South Billings Boulevard Bridge. The patient was found to have sustained serious injuries and unable to move on his own. As a result, firefighters had to deploy a rope rescue, dropping down from the top of the bridge to reach the man. As rope operations were underway, paramedics and the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office responded by boat to render first aid. The fire department says thanks to teamwork, the patient was safely rescued and transported to the hospital, and no first responders were injured in the rescue.